Hello. Welcome to the KNX IoT Forum. This section of the whole day agenda is called the KNX Startup Forum. Thank you very much for participating, joining us here in person. We are also streaming live this event to our KNX community. More than 100,000 certified installers, more than 500 members, manufacturers, training centers, test labs, one of the biggest communities in the world in the industry, if not the biggest. I'm your host, Jesús Arias. I work in this fantastic association, and I take care of members, startups, and business development in the association. Last year, we did our first startup forum. We have less people. This year, we are very happy to see many more faces in the audience and also a large audience in the live streaming. Last year, we did something to warm up. I would like to repeat it, seeing that we have more people here. Please raise your hand if you don't speak Spanish. OK. So you've been in Barcelona for a few days, and probably you learned the word hola. Do you know hola means hello? Right? Barcelona is the city where we are. So please give me a very big hola, Barcelona. Can you do that for me? OK, 1, 2, 3. That's good. Thank you. We are very happy to be here this year. We have our startup pavilion sponsored by the KNX Association. Let me tell you about startups. OK, it's not going through the... OK. I've been reflecting about startups. I've been working now hand in hand with them, feeling their journey to thrive in this hard market. So I know how much they suffer, how much they enjoy their pains. And I reflected with an own experience that I think is a good analogy. Some years ago, I decided to cross the Cederberg Leopard Sanctuary in Western Cape, South Africa, To make it more interesting, I did it 2 weeks before my wedding, so thank you to my wife for allowing me. This is going... So it's not working, oh, yeah. Well, for those online, this is a live event, so these things happen. Well, anyway, I will continue with the story. The slide will come through. When I decided to do this adventure, I tried to find out what I would have ahead of my journey, so I planned as much as I could that experience. I think I assessed all the risks, and then I went on the journey by myself for 7 days, crossing this beautiful, isolated section. Everything went more or less well until the very last day. The very last day, I had 85 kilometers through this region. There's nothing in between, and it was plus 50 degrees Celsius. It took me 14 hours to complete this event or this journey, and I ran out of water several times. I did suffer very much, but fortunately, I found people along the way, people driving 4x4s, some isolated farms in between, and they gave me water, otherwise I would have never made it. So the analogy with the startup incubator that we are running and our startups is the companies joining our incubator are facing unknown risks. They are trying to put their product out in the market. You think you have a plan, but then plans change. But fortunately, there are people helping you out. Like, in this case, getting water from people. That's what our role of the startup incubator from KNX is, to assist our incubators to thrive. We try to give them resources to make it through this tough journey. OK, now it's working. So this is that trip that I took. The KNX Startup Incubator is allowing the startups to thrive. Let me tell you a few things about the Startup Incubator. In this cult book from Nassim Taleb, it says, how do you innovate? First, try to get in trouble. I mean, serious but not terminal trouble. Innovation and sophistication spark from initial situations of necessity. So that's what startups are doing. I'm finding the necessity in the market, and they are filling the gap in the market with their products. Our incubator. We have now 6 healthy startups from various countries and continents. They are exhibiting in the pavilion, the KNX Startup Pavilion. And our startups commit to use KNX IoT-based technology to base their developments. KNX has been in the market for more than 30 years with a very healthy portfolio of devices based on our original specifications, twisted pair, radio frequency, KNX NetIP protocol. Last year, we released the new KNX IoT specifications, and our startups are using these specifications to develop their products and solutions. So we can say they are the early adopters in our market. A few highlights. These companies, some of them are presenting today. For instance, SolarEnergy, they have produced a shutter that produces energy, so they manufacture these solar cells for shuttles to produce electricity. A brilliant solution, and thanks to KNX IoT API server, they can gather the data from the installation and show the data to the end user, energy consumption, energy production, etc. Our very well-known startup SimLab has the most incredible 3D visualization and asset management solution in the market. And they offer their solution and the service thanks to the KNX IoT API server. Our startup KNX from France, they are also early adopters of the technology by enabling these servers in the market. Likewise, with Atios, they do the same, targeting other ecosystems. Or like InfiWare, you can find this product in our KNX IoT panel in the ISC booth. They have produced the KNX IoT router that enables the communication between the KNX twisted pair radio frequency and KNX IoT point API. And coming soon, to be announced in upcoming fairs, also another very interesting startup which is developing KNX IPv6 KNX IoT point API devices. So all in all, we are helping our startups, but our startups are also helping KNX to thrive in this very competitive market. We don't do this alone. We have great partners and now, thankfully, new sponsors that are helping our startups to test and play with KNX. Our three sponsors of the startup incubator, GVS, Tapco, and Vincel. Thanks to them, we can provide our startups with test benches and KNX technology in order to play with KNX. For those who are online, you can visit their booth in the expo area. And also very proud to announce our new partnership with Riot. You will also get the presentation from Tom. He's here to explain what startups are and what they do to help them. We embedded our startup ecosystem within Riot. So it is KNX IoT time. We have a very nice agenda with an incredible selection of guest speakers. Tom from Riot. Then we have a Krish from the 11 IoT, which is sharing with us his experience in developing KNX IoT. We have Maurice from SolarEG. As well, Bruno. He's been also a very early adopter of KNX IoT and his company Cascoda offering the modules for KNX IoT point API development. And our newest member in a big player in the IP industry, Aruba, a Hewlett-Packard enterprise company. And finally, a wrap-up and a very nice selection of giveaways that we will randomly distribute within our attendees today here. So enough of my presentation. I think it's time now to welcome our guest speakers. Please enjoy their presentations. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you much. All right, hola Barcelona, right? I'm Tom Snyder. Glad to be here. Thank you to KNX for inviting me to join. And let's see, I guess my slides will come up here in a moment. But I founded Riot about 9 years ago now to focus on kind of the intersection of the entrepreneurial world and startup world, the opportunity that IoT brings, and then how do you connect to established players, to standards organizations, other kinds of organizations. And I'm here to talk today a little bit about collaboration at scale. And I want to start with a little bit of history about some ancient history through to where we are at the present. But just real quickly again, Riot, we're based in the United States. We believe we're the largest organization of our kind, intersecting entrepreneurship and IoT and big industry. I will be here all day. I'm happy to talk about that later, but we're really here to talk about startups. And so let's start with this history lesson I talked about. When we look at technology, tech-driven entrepreneurship, you have to go back about 800,000 years to when we first learned how to make tools out of stone, right? And it took on the order of 26,000 generations for us to get to bronze, right? And then we took a much faster leap forward, maybe about 550 or so generations to get to iron, right? And now we are really starting to do interesting things to kind of take control of the world that we lived in, to be able to do things that just hadn't been possible before we developed these technologies. If you move much, much further forward to the state of North Carolina, where I live, the Wright brothers first got us off the ground in 1903. And it took less than 66 years until we suddenly were on the moon. So we're seeing this acceleration in how quickly new technologies emerge and develop, right? If you get closer to this IoT audience that's online and here in the room, of course, we start to think about connectivity and we think about wireless, right? And the first generation of cellular was 1979. It took 21 years to get to 2G, and then only 7 more years to get to that first iPhone. It's amazing to think that the iPhone was only 15, 16 years ago, right? Took half the time from 1G to 2G to get to 3G. And 4G was faster, and we keep accelerating. Things are happening faster and faster and faster. And even when we think about those really pivotal technology shifts that we call industrial revolutions, they're coming faster and faster. And we believe we're in kind of the early stages of this fourth industrial revolution right now, which is IoT, right? And so all of you in the audience, I presume, are already familiar here, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on this. But what I fundamentally believe is kind of the core difference of IoT from, say, IT, right? This information technology was this third industrial revolution. It's really about time. It's about that in the information age, we had all the information available in our devices, right? At any moment, you can do a search, you can pull up some information. IoT is about data the instant it's created being used to automate something. So I think about IoT really as being the age of automation. We're automating the energy grid. We're automating our food supply. We're automating our healthcare systems and the way that we manage our health. All of this automation is about time. And so as things are happening really, really fast, and there's lots of technology involved, it's really important to collaborate. And if you think about IoT in the way that we view the world, we think of this as this umbrella over which there are tremendous numbers of other 3-4-letter acronyms, technology buzzwords, whatever you may say. But if we're going to master this economy, the point of all these technologies that are scrolling behind me is that there's a lot to figure out. No organization has the size or scale to kind of do all of the above and to be expert at all of the above. No startup company can either, right? But all of these technologies play together in this automated future, whether it's the automation of the homes and things that the KNX technologies enable or other use cases. But it comes back to this data that leads to automation. All right? So with that in mind, how do we grow and create the new IoT economy? Things that are going to look, complete industries are going to look very different from how they did in the IT age. And of course, how are we going to make money off of this, right? This is ultimately what the private industry side of IoT cares about. And so the strategies that we've really pioneered at Riot and driven is around how do you do what, it might be easy for a beverage company to do, to say, we're going to be really, really big but still nimble, right? Or we're going to be really, really small but still powerful, right? That's marketing and branding. We know that large organizations don't just change on a dime, right? You've been making money a certain way for a long time. It's hard to say, let's stop making money that way and start making money a different way, right? You have to cannibalize your own businesses to change. And for startups can move fast, they can experiment, they can try things, but they don't have the power really to grow and scale, right? And so it's when you bring this combination of things together that you can be successful. And that's really the focus. And I think when you look at what are all the tools in that Swiss Army knife of innovation entrepreneurship, accelerator programs are kind of at the core. And I'm biased, right? Runs accelerators. We work with startups. Increasingly, we're working with corporate innovation teams that are using a startup curriculum to vet kind of new ideas, and we're excited about that. But what you get when you have this kind of interconnectedness in the entrepreneurial community is you get the diversity of skills and talents across all those technologies that I just talked about, across the different market sectors that we want to work in, and you have kind of neutral organizations like accelerators that can help to, kind of shepherd those conversations, move them forward in productive ways. Because each of us in this room have one of these superpowers, but we're much stronger when we're all working together, right? And when you're working in these entrepreneurial communities, this is where, the serendipitous connections that happen in co-working spaces and at networking events and other things happen kind of regularly. If you're working from home in a big industry right now, you're missing a lot of this. There's connections that need to be made, whether it's in the virtual space or in person. And the entrepreneurial communities that are moving fast, the startups that are trying things very quickly, these are some of the tools at their disposal. Like KNX, Riot has an industry consortium of partners, mostly large organizations that have technology platforms that realize the startups that grow and scale, they're going to need somebody's cloud, right? We're not going to reinvent the cloud. We're not reinventing, our connectivity network. So, of course, technologies are evolving these things, but it's important for the big industries to come into play because they are the ones not only that can provide some of the other technologies on top of what the startups can do, but they can also act as a sales channel and help companies to scale. So when we see those first applications, and we're going to hear from them, about a few of them from some of the startups that are presenting, and if you've had a chance to speak to some of them out on the floor, we can now start to plant some seeds. We can make some investments. We can start to grow. And it's about kind of bringing these collaborations together around, neutral organizations like a KNX, like a Riot. I think the last piece of the puzzle, though, is that if we really want to make this a huge industry, it's not about one or two little startups, some of which will grow to become big companies. It's about doing some things with standards and interoperability. I was fortunate early in my career, in the early 90s, to work at Ericsson at the time that the company invented Bluetooth. And there were pretty deep discussions about whether or not to take this low-power radio protocol and keep it as an internal proprietary technology to develop on, to profit off of, to block other entrants into the market, or should we open it up? Should we share it with Nokia? That was the big competitor to Ericsson at the time. Do we share it, with our biggest competitors? Because we realize there's an opportunity to have more manufacturers, to have multiple entrants to really grow and dominate a market. And as y'all know, the decision was to open this up as a standard. And it was important because there was a killer app that really launched the standard. And that killer app was the headset. So we had this kind of combination of a really interesting new technology that we're going to open up for anyone to use, ourselves or our competitors or the startup community. We're going to grow and make it popular because all of a sudden everybody wanted to wear one of these headsets. It took out, does anybody remember like Ant Plus? was a competing technology. There were a number of other low-power radio protocols, but because they stayed proprietary, they didn't open up, they didn't collaborate around use cases, from that headset, we got to the point now where, there's all kinds of Bluetooth applications that could never have even been imagined. And so I see a lot of similarities between, the work that we've done kind of broadly at Riot to connect, large industry technology platform providers, startup companies that are developing all the different use cases, and what we've seen in the KNX community as we've gotten to know them as we've started this partnership together. And I think what's really exciting is that you're going to see from several of the startups that are here, they're working on some of these killer apps. And there's already an established set of technologies and standards and things that KNX has developed that enable the right killer apps to really grow and to scale in a collaborative ecosystem. And so I'm really excited that we have this partnership. We hope to grow this partnership. Happy to work with any organizations that are out here that would like to engage in some way, whether that's getting involved in mentoring with startups, whether that's you have an internal innovation idea and looking for the right outside resources to help kind of poke holes in it, ask the hard questions, drive things forward. But in the spirit of when we collaborate and grow this industry, it absolutely creates the rising tide effect of more and more opportunity kind of across the board. So with that, I have one slide on who we are. I'm not going to go through this in any detail. I'll be available kind of after the event for anybody that wants to speak about it. But our focus really is economic development. We believe that tech jobs are the best jobs at some level. And I'm biased, I'm an engineer. As we can create great tech jobs, those core tech industries create a halo effect of other jobs for those in our communities. And what we're doing in IoT, what we're seeing in home automation, specifically in other places, are things that are improving the quality of our lives while also creating new opportunities and kind of future-proof opportunities. And so we are happy to work with any organizations that share that same kind of mindset of how do we work together to the betterment of both our industry, our society, and most importantly, ourselves as people in that. So with that, thank you. I hope this has been helpful. You can reach out to us in any way that you'd like. You can reach us through our KNX friends. Thank you again for those that are joining online, for those that are here in the audience, and to KNX. All right.
How many of you like watching superhero science fiction movies? Right? I'm a geek. I'm a complete geek. I love watching the classic Star Wars. I've watched all of the Marvel movies. Why do we keep going back and back to these movies? Why do we keep seeing the prequels, the sequels? Why do people spend millions of dollars on making these movies? For me, it's the fascination of new technology. I love technology. All of us love technology. All of us want the new smartwatches, the new smartphones, the new smart sweepers. Man, everyone loves technology. And with technology, I feel it makes us feel connected. IoT, the Internet of Things, makes us feel more connected. And the more connected we feel, the more secure we feel. I have a smartwatch in my hand. It monitors my health. I feel more secure. I have a security system in India. I feel secure. I can see stuff from my phone. So I really believe that it all starts with a fascination. The fascination is not only about there's more than 2 times the devices that are going to be there in this ecosystem. 27 billion IoT devices by 2025. This brings an immense market share for us. Hi, everyone. I'm Krish Ferwani from 11 IoT and Cloud Technologies. So I come from the city called Pune. Pune is a very KNX-friendly city. We have a lot of system integrators and also a couple of members from Pune. Today, I'll be speaking about our offerings and our experience developing a KNX IoT router. So we started a decade back as system integrators for KNX. We did a lot of projects around India, smart homes, smart buildings, smart hotels. From there, we transitioned into working on automation and IoT protocols as software developers. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce my product, InfiWare, for smart homes and smart buildings. I'm sure a lot of our system integrator friends have been through this, right? You do an installation, you go back home, the customer calls you the next day, and nothing's working. Trust me, we've been through this as well. InfiWare. InfiWare is a multi-protocol server. Our 2 goals with InfiWare is everything on one platform and operate from anywhere. InfiWare is built keeping in mind 2 key people. One is the system integrator, and the other is the end customer. For the end customer, we have amazing features, such as end customers can create the scenarios within the application. They can create schedules within the application, and they can create logic features within the application. This is a simple schematic of how InfiWare works. So here we have the InfiWare i1, and here you have your KNX installation. So InfiWare i1 will communicate to your devices locally as well as through the cloud. We also enable Alexa, Google, and HomeKit voice assistants. The 11 IoT Toolkit, this is something we are really proud of. The 11 IoT Toolkit works on both Windows and Mac. It's designed to give you rapid, so programmers, installers can make the installations rapidly. It's a powerful toolkit. It solves a lot of the complicated algorithms within the toolkit. And we have a ready set of drivers. We also build custom drivers on request. The 11 IoT Cloud. The 11 IoT Cloud gives your KNX installation remote access. It is secure with OAuth 2.0 security. A big advantage of InfiWare is that we also offer over-the-air updates. So all our firmware is updated through our cloud. So this was in July when we pitched to be a part of the KNX Startup Incubator. And when Jesús said, OK, we can be a part of this, we were really excited. Being a part of the incubator gave us a lot of access to the KNX specifications. We provided a lot of support through KNX experts. Mostly, the biggest thing which we felt was they let us innovate. They let us innovate and create something on the new KNX IoT stack. So when we were going through the specifications, this is the schematic which really intrigued us. So in India, when we do KNX installations, we sell it as a wired installation. But having KNX wirelessly over IP just blew our mind. So when we pitched to be a part of the incubator, we were given a challenge. And the challenge was to build a KNX Point API gateway. So what is KNX IoT? Right? So our challenge was, a good thing about KNX is that whenever they build something new, they always ensure it is interoperable. So with the KNX IoT router in place, you can enable communication between KNX Classic and KNX IoT. So when we started working on the product, our first question was, what's the essence of KNX IoT? How do I differentiate KNX IoT from KNX Classic? A big learning curve for us was, so the KNX IoT specification, the embedded communication happens through CoAP. As an IoT company, we had worked with MQTT before. So for some rookies, so imagine for some system integrators, all of us know what KNX Classic is, right? So let's say I have a house with 200 KNX Classic devices. So if I want to control these devices through the cloud or through a visualization, I usually use an IP interface and IP router, and that's how I communicate with these devices, right? But with the future changing, I'll have more connected devices. When I'm doing a classic installation with one IP interface, I only have one IP address. But when I'm doing a futuristic installation, I'll have 200 connected devices. I'll have 200 IoT devices. Every device will have a unique IP address. And that's what KNX IoT does beautifully. With KNX IoT, system integrators can easily program their installation. So imagine you have 200 IoT devices in the house, and we are used to using ETS, right? In the same way, you can program your KNX IoT devices. I think that's the beauty of KNX IoT. So we were successful to build the KNX IoT router within the InfyWare i1, and we were successfully able to communicate between KNX IoT and KNX Classic. I hope all of you can go to KNX booth in Hall 2, and we have a live demonstration of the same thing. A good thing of having the KNX IoT router built within the InfyWare i1 is that we do give over-the-air firmware updates. So with new specifications coming in, with new devices coming in, we can always update our server. A few things which I think are really strong about KNX IoT is that the possibility of having wireless communication over IP. KNX IoT devices are based on IPv6. CoAP is what the communication protocol used for KNX IoT is really secure. With security such as OS Core and DTLS, I mean, it's really good. A big strength of KNX IoT is the configuration is similar to Classic. As a part of the incubator, we also want to develop a KNX IoT third-party API server. I think KNX IoT is truly the future. With 11 IoT and the KNX Startup Incubator, we really want to enhance interoperable devices. We want to deploy rapidly. We want to ensure IoT is actually used. And we want to future-proof the KNX supremacy. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Today I want to give you a short insight into our work here at Celerity. We at Celerity are developing the next generation blind system. But before I go into more details, who are the people? Who are the people at Celerity? Well, Celerity was founded by my colleague Florian Liegermann and myself, Maurice Haidt. And actually, we founded Celerity almost 3 years ago now. And Florian is more taking care of the mechanical engineering, and I'm more into software engineering part. And, well, why did we actually found Celerity in the first place? It all has to do with 3 major reasons. The first reason is, as you all know, an enormous increase in electricity demand, not just because of the growing e-mobility sector, but also because of the other industry sectors going carbon neutral. The second reason is because of the enormously increasing prices in electricity. And it not only has to do with the war going on in Ukraine, but also has other reasons, of course. And Well, the main reason why we actually founded Solarity is because of the impact we have with electricity generation on our environment. And here we can see that like there's a bar at the bottom, and the total bar represents the emitted CO2 by fuel combustion. And just the yellow part of that, so around or more than 1/3 of that, is actually the CO2 emitted just because of electricity, electricity and heat production. And that's around about 13.6 gigatons of CO2 annually. So actually, what's a gigaton? A gigaton equals to 1 billion tons of CO2. So we are at 13.6 billion tons of CO2 emitted by the electricity and heat production annually. But to make it a bit more tangible for you and to put the numbers into perspective, I would like to look at the World Overshoot Day. And here we see 2 dates. But first, let me explain to you what actually is the Overshoot Day. Well, the Overshoot Day is the day we go over our resource limits for 1 year. So for Germany, that's the 4th of May. For Spain, so for here, that will be the 12th of May this year. And, well, if you go over the limit before halftime, conclude yourself. And now, actually, let's dive a bit more into the special problems or the real problems we're trying to solve, the concrete problems. And there you have to look at the building sector. And one part of the building sector, or one important part of the building sector, is actually the coolant or cooling of the building in summer times, and of course the heating in winter times. And here, shading makes a big difference. So if we have no shading system installed, that's of course not really good. We have to use more air conditioners to either cool or warm up the place. But if we have a shading system installed, that's of course already a good thing. So we don't have to cool that much, but we're still only reflecting the sunlight away from the building. And that's exactly the problem we're trying to solve with rough sun. So with rough sun, we are combining an external blind with a photovoltaic module. And therefore, we have a one-product approach to generating electricity and also shading the system, the building. And, well, what actually is rough sun? Rough sun is made of 3 major components. So first of all, that's the intelligent control. There I will dive a bit more into detail later. And it's, well, probably the most interesting part for today, because we had the IoT SWC. But we also have 2 other main components, which are, of course, the PV sleds, so the photovoltaic sleds, and also the electricity transfer from the sleds to the building. Because we can move the sleds up and down and also tilt the angle or move the angle, we somehow have to dynamically get the electricity from there onto the static building. And that's actually a real challenge we are solving with our transfer system, e-transfer. And now let's have a bit closer look to our PV sleds. The PV sleds are of course made out of solar cells and also made out of aluminum sled on the backside. And one interesting thing is that our sleds are not actually flat, so they're bent because of a better shading effect. And here we somehow have to manage the bending process of the cell, because the cell is really fragile, it breaks quite fast. We somehow have to still implement it on top of the bent sled. And well, we are actually solving the problem right now and are on a good path, because we are moving the production process from prototype into serial production at the moment. And now let's get a bit more into detail of our intelligent control. And here we not only have the main functions of blind actors, like moving up and moving down, tilting the sled, etc., but we also have a additional function, which is a sun tracking algorithm. So we can actually move the blind or tilt the blind this way that we have an optimal energy generated. And to showcase it, we have a really simple animation here on the right side. And as we get closer to the optimum angle, we actually have the maximum in the power we can generate. And the algorithm itself, or the principle behind it, is quite simple, but actually the real implementation requires also some hard work. And third of all, we also have a smart control integration. And as we are also with KNX, as KNX Startup, that's of course an integration into the KNX bus. And how does it actually all work? So our e-control itself fetches all sorts of data. For example, it can fetch the data for the voltages and currents of our PV sleds. It can also fetch the wind speed via read contact relays, wind sensors, of course. And it can also fetch inputs of wall switches. It can be simple, one switches. Can also be like the dual switches for blind actors. And we can use all this data to display it on or via the KNX boss on our KNX dashboard. And the dashboard can be accessed everywhere. So you can either be at work, you can be on vacation, doesn't matter, you can still access the dashboard. And here you can see your electricity yield, you can control the blind system, and you can also see if there's some kind of problem with that. And how do we actually manage to do all that with KNX? You must know KNX is quite a wide and complex specification, but with the KNX Startup Incubator, we have the experts right at our hands. So with the help of, for example, Jesús, we can just use the new third-party API to do the dashboard part. And also the twisted pair integration we have is also quite good, because we have twisted pair experts on our hands. And before I finish, I would like to inform you that we are currently looking for pilot customers. So if you're interested on implementing or having one or two sled systems on your windows, either residential or in office buildings, feel free to contact us. You can find our email here. You can also scan the QR code for our email, or just visit Solarity. And we are real happy to talk and have a small conference about it. So thank you all for listening, and maybe we'll see each other on the booth we have in the KNX Startup section. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bruno Johnson from Cascoda. Cascoda is a communications company, and we make ultra-low power radios for internet protocol connectivity. So how does this relate to KNX? Well, first of all, a little bit about our organization. So Cascoda has secure IoT hardware for radio communications. That's what we do. And we make secure IoT software that builds on top of that. So we have some of the leading experts in the industry that come from places like Cisco's IoT research labs. And we use that to have the ability to develop full stacks of software for internet protocol connectivity. So we are a leading open source stack developer. We've been heavily involved in the development of the Thread wireless mesh standard. We led a work group within that standard for 5 years before we got involved in KNX. So, I've just gone through that. So, Thread provides mesh networking capability. And this is a seamless, self-managing mesh. And this is very important for buildings because you don't need operators to get involved with the mesh. It will self-manage. Devices will upgrade themselves to routers if another device gets added to the end of the network dynamically. This is very, very useful. As we start to build out the infrastructure with buildings, it will seamlessly scale. And it will scale to massive IoT. Each radio frequency can support hundreds of devices, and we have 16 radio channels to choose from. That's why this is incredibly powerful for building automation. So let's take a look at the KNX Point API stack. It is an open source project sponsored by the KNX organization. And the KNX organization paid Cascoda to develop this for them. It is available on GitHub and GitLab. So go to the KNX booth in Hall 2, you can scan a QR code based on an Apache 2 license. So the KNX Point API stack implements KNX using the same data models and the same semantics as is used with the other KNX transports, KNX Classic, for example. So the KNX IoT Point API kit that we've developed is based on the same functional blocks and data points. So for instance, we are showing a demo on our booth in Hall 2 with light switching. So we've got a basic light switching sensor and light switching actuator. And despite all the Wi-Fi interference that's around in a hall like this, it works seamlessly. So we can also emulate devices using KNX IoT Point API. And this is very important. This is the digital twin concept. You can actually build out your system with devices emulated within a computer. You can develop your software in that way, and then you can start to swap out the emulated devices with real devices. And this allows us a very powerful tool to be able to develop higher layer applications and software without going to the full install. So we have developed a KNX IoT development board. I've got one here. It fits into a standard industry housing. It has our thread-based radio module on the back, and it has two plug-in sensors. Now, there are around 2,500 different sensors and actuators available. So you can take your combinations of sensor, actuator with this, integrate it with KNX IoT Point API. We've got a set of configurable buttons, various power inputs from 2.5 to 30 volts, and various connectivity options, USB and UART, for example. The CLIC development boards are manufactured by a company in the Czech Republic called Microelectronica. These are widely available worldwide, either directly through them or through the big electronic distributors. And importantly, they provide a set of driver code which is public, and also their schematics are public. So you can choose the Microelectronica product based on the target sensor that you require, develop your application using this kit, and then when you want to miniaturize, go to full production, we can help you with that. So, just an overall recap on this. Our radios have been developed by us. They're in full production. They have incredibly long range. Actually, our biggest customers that use this radio use it in the smart city environment. So it's been used in Taipei, the southernmost district of Taipei, for smart lighting. The longest link is about a quarter of a kilometer, 270 meters. It's ultra low power, so we support sleep modes, and this board will support lithium battery or a lithium polymer rechargeable battery, and we have a battery charger built in. It's low cost, IP-based to support KNX IoT. We have all the security built in. Our module includes the ARM Trust Zone security system and all the cryptography engine. And the microcontroller has been certified as a secure device using the industry standard. This is massively scalable technology. Unlike other technologies such as Wi-Fi, which require a star or Wi-Fi mesh, a star of star, this is a seamless mesh. The data gets routed to the most efficient path to the nearest router that will take the information to the wider internet. It's very straightforward to manage. You manage this in the same way as you manage your existing KNX installation. So as mentioned before, this works with ETS just as you are already used to. Highly reliable and already fully certified for Thread and deployment in North America and Europe. So just a quick overview of our team. We've got a highly experienced team. Our first startup was sold to Semtech. Within Semtech, we were part of the business unit that created the LoRa radio frequency standard. Our COO, Wouter van der Beek, joined us from Cisco. Incredibly experienced. And our software manager made the first Zigbee Golden Unit stack that was part of the certification suite. And our chairman, Sean Redmond, has had several successful exits and taken companies through to IPO. So that's us. Please feel free to contact me if you'd like any further information. As mentioned, we've got a booth in Hall 2 on the KNX stand. Very happy to talk to you and get to know a little bit about your needs and your requirements and how we can help you with this. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I think I am the last one today, just before the party, so I hope not to be too boring for you, so you will still be awake for the party. So good afternoon, everybody, again. So my name is Lorenzo Piro, so I'm working for Aruba. I don't know if you know Aruba, but I will present you briefly the company. So first, I'm working for HPE. So Aruba is a brand of HPE, and HPE was founded in 2015 as a spin-off of HP. You know HP probably, so the founder of the Silicon Valley in 1939. So founded by Dave Packard and Bill Hewlett. So this company grew quite a lot, and in 2015 they decided to split into two companies. One being HP, focusing on enterprises solutions like networking, like computing, like cloud, like storage. And the other side, you have HP, which is still using the same logo, focusing on endpoints, so computer, printers, and so on. We are all there here today. So HP, Aruba, HP, we all have booths today here in this event. But I'm working for Aruba, so when this split happened in 2015, HP decided to take very quickly some strategic moves, so they booked Aruba. And Aruba is one of the leaders in the networking industry. So Aruba was founded in 2002, now about 20 years, and has been recognized since the beginning as one of the leaders in networking infrastructure. So you can see on this slide many innovations when we brought to the market. There are many patents behind that. We also made a lot of acquisitions. I will highlight 3 innovations that we made. The first is what we call the mobile-first architecture. We were, let's say, the only one in the beginning to understand the importance of mobility. So mobility is just being connected to an access point to work like I'm working now. It's just giving a seamless experience wherever the people are, whatever they're using, with same level of security, same level of bandwidth, the same level of security, and so on. So everything is included. The second that I would like to highlight is the cloud management that we also implemented very early in our solution to be able to manage everything from a single cloud platform. And the third, which is topic of today, is IoT. So we also included since the beginning an architecture to include IoT devices and the possibility to connect them, to secure them in our architecture. So I think it's really a nice moment today. It couldn't be better to announce our KNX membership because we are very fresh in the KNX Association. KNX is moving into IoT, and Aruba would like to further develop its presence into smart buildings, smart homes, and so on. So the big company is HP, and what we think in terms of vision for the future, for the next wave for enterprises, that will be edge-centric, cloud-enabled, and data. And data will be very important. It is already now. So what is the edge? The edge can be also, many cases, translated into network infrastructure. It's where the access layer is. So it's, of course, networking, but we also have edge computing with both. So at the edge, what's happening at the edge, we have users connected at the edge. We have also devices connected at the edge, and all of them are creating insights, data. So we will be using that data with artificial intelligence to improve things. So it can be an experience in a shop. It can be improving the building in terms of efficiency. It can be anything. Then we also think that cloud is something that it's not a destination. It's something that is an experience. So we think that workloads can be everywhere. It can be in a private cloud. It can be in a public cloud. It can be in a data center. But the experience should be the same. It should be seamless. And it should be also easy to move workloads from one location to the other. And then last but not least, data. So we think that data is the new oil, is the new currency. So enterprises, people which can exploit data will have a competitive advantage. So think about Amazon, think about Google, think about Facebook. All those guys are using data. So within Aruba, so a division of HP, our mission is connecting, securing, and delivering insight from the edge to the cloud. This is what we do. So it's just not about connecting, because most of the time we think network is just connecting. No, it's not just connecting. It's also exporting data from the edge. So data, for example, can be the location of people, how many times they are coming in a facility, or, for example, which kind of application they are using. We can see all this kind of context with our solutions. So the topic of today, of course, is smart buildings. But smart buildings is something from the past, like it was presented by Mr. Lux a few minutes ago. We are now speaking about collaborative buildings, or what we call also a smart hyper-aware buildings. So what does that mean is that smart buildings were, let's say, buildings where we put IoT devices and they send information about telemetry. Smart hyper-aware buildings or collaborative buildings are also doing that, of course, but they have the capacity to self-adapt quickly to environments. So this is what we are defining as hyper-awareness. So this is extremely important because the data which is generated by the devices can be understood and can be exploited to improve the efficiency of the building. So in this case, IoT and OT are the eyes and the ears providing information to the building. So why is it important? So it's extremely important because the richer the data that we provide to the building, the bigger its capacity to self-adapt and take the good decisions. In this case, so we will need not only, like I mentioned before, a network which enables the connectivity, but an intelligent network which will understand the context. So what is the role of the edge of the, let's say, network infrastructure? First of all, like I mentioned, it's connectivity of telemetry. So devices, sensors, and so on. Second is also to understand the people in the building. Like I mentioned, where they are, we can get, for example, 20 centimeter accuracy with our solution, how many times they come. Typical example that we have, so we have big customers like, shops, hypermarkets, where you can see how many times people are coming into the building, what they are looking for, because with 20 centimeter accuracy, we know that they are in front of specific product, and we know also which kind of traffic they are generating with their mobile phone, if they are surfing on Amazon, for example. And we can provide, at that moment, the right user experience. For example, sending them a message for a promotion, because we want them to close a deal, because we can also see how many times they came in front of this specific product. So this is things that we can do with our solutions, so not only connectivity. Of course, the edge is also a threat, because at the edge, you will get the cyber security attacks. So this needs to be protected from I/O to CEO. And also, so like I mentioned, so we need to have a common infrastructure to get visibility of who is using the network, and we need to secure them. This is our goal. So now, if we think about smart buildings, we think there is a difference between smart homes in terms of needs and smart buildings in terms of bigger infrastructure. So the use case will be different. At home, we will use most of the time application like multimedia, your thermostat, all this kind of stuff that everybody is using now, like also appliances and so on. While in smart buildings, the needs are more, let's say, more intended to improve the efficiency of buildings, of parkings, for example, of waste management. So use cases are, let's say, completely different, most of the cases. Also, of course, the size and the structure of buildings are completely different. So a home, you will find simple, let's say, very small rooms with most of the time walls in concrete or in steel, but in industries, in bigger buildings, you will find this kind of infrastructure where you need also to deploy different type of networks. Then also in terms of communication protocols used, most of the time at home, Wi-Fi, 80% of the cases will be used, and then we also have additional protocols like Zigbee, Bluetooth, and so on, and KNX, of course. While in bigger buildings, you will, of course, find KNX everywhere, but you will also find new protocols like Thread, just mentioned before, or also Sigfox. All these kind of things are a bit different. So there are a lot of different communication protocols that we find in the enterprise. In terms of our requirements, it's completely different also. At home, most of the time, we will find a power outlet where we can connect an IoT device. In bigger buildings, it's more difficult, so low energy devices is also very important to find. And then where to compute, most of the time, an IoT application at home will be in the cloud, provided by your solution, while for the industry, it will be a mix of both. It can be in the cloud, but the processing can be also at the edge. So you can see different type of requirements, and we answer that with different type of solutions also. So we have two solutions within our portfolio in Aruba. So I'm responsible for the one on the left, which is Aruba Instant On, which is meant for small SMBs and for also smart homes. While on the right, you will find what we call the Aruba ESP, Edge Service Platform, meant for bigger enterprises. So the Aruba Instant On is a simple portfolio where you will find access points, switches, IPv6, Wi-Fi 6, all the last infrastructure protocols and standards that are on the market. But the main characteristic of this solution is that it's easy to deploy, because an installer, which is doing a smart home project, so it will spend, let's say, a few hours maximum on this project, because otherwise it'll be too costly for the end customer. And also in terms of management, in terms of security, so all of this should be easy to deploy. Also because of the knowledge of the partner or the reseller, which sometimes when they come from the IoT role or the smart building role is a bit missing in terms of IP. So the solution should be easy to deploy. In terms of enterprise solution, we have this platform, which is called ESP. We have 3 layers. The first layer, of course, like I mentioned, is connectivity. And there we can provide, of course, wireless, of course, Wi, so Ethernet, but also SD-WAN, so for multiple sites, 5G, and IoT. And I will show you what we can do in terms of IoT. So we have the possibility to integrate new IoT protocol standard into a solution very quickly. We have already some of them embedded, but we have the possibility to extend. Then we have the security layer. There we will provide what we call a zero trust security layer, where anything which is connected to the network we don't trust. So we will apply what's called role-based access. We'll define a role, a specific device. We'll first identify the device and put the device in a specific role. For example, an IoT device, a pump, for example, won't get access to an Exchange server. So we'll define rules to protect, let's say, automatically the network. And then we will provide a national layer of artificial intelligence to understand all the context created by IoT devices and created by the people in the building. All this managed by a cloud solution, which is called Central, and a common security layer. So I mentioned IoT, so gateways. The IoT gateways that we have are our access points. The access points from Aruba, they have 4 possibilities to connect IoT devices. The first is, of course, the Wi-Fi, which is enabled, so for the, let's say, Wi-Fi endpoints, but we also have, of course, Bluetooth 5.0 and Zigbee radio integrated to the access point by default. But we also have a USB port, which enables us to connect any kind of device to provide a new way to connect IoT devices. One example that I have here, for example, is what we do with Enocean, which is a bit like KNX, right? But we provide this solution. So by simply plugging this USB stick into the access point, we have access to the Enocean world and IoT devices, but also to KNX, because we can put also a gateway between Enocean and KNX and then go to KNX. So we will develop more feature, more integration in the future. For us, it's just the beginning of the journey in terms of smart buildings, especially with KNX, but stay tuned. You will hear from us in the next future. So in terms of what we can do with the solution, so we have also this possibility to have indoor navigation. So like I mentioned, with geolocalization of people, we also have asset tracking embedded in our solution. We have smart tags, Bluetooth smart tags, with also Wi-Fi localization. So all this can be done with the Aruba solution. So today, we are also giving away something for you. So we are giving away this access point. So Jesús will, I think, define who's winning it. So it's the flagship product that we have in SMB in Smart Home. 4x4 Wi-Fi 6 access point, 1.8 gig throughput. So this will be the gift given by Aruba today. Use cases, this is where you need bandwidth. So it can be gaming, it can be hospitality, it can be offices. So it's really what is best on the market today, really. So some takeaways from my side. I think that we need, when there is a smart building project, to define first the needs. Is it a smart building? Is it a smart home? And there is no one-size-fits-all in terms of networking, because networking technology is quite complex in terms of deployment, management, and so on. So choosing the good solution is a key thing to do. Then there should be no compromise on security, whatever the end customer. Smart home, smart building, and so on, security needs to remain at very high level because security breaches are coming from this side of the network. And then, last but not least, hyper building, collaborative buildings, and so on. Data is the new normal. So you need to find and you need to deploy a network which is intelligent enough to understand data generated by all the devices and all the occupants. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Lorenzo. Welcome, Aruba, to our membership. Looking forward to seeing your KNX solutions in the near future. We have a couple of our startups have raised more than 1 million euros already. I think all the startup incubators, the aim is to get some unicorns in there. But KNX Association is already happy with the outcome. We have already succeeded because of our startups are leading the innovation and the adoption of the KNX IoT technology. We are going to be here again next year in the IoT Solutions World Congress with a bigger pavilion, with more startups, and with a few surprises we have in the pipeline. So we hope to see you here again. And now we have a booth party in the Hall 2 L400. And we are giving away prizes worth more than 3,000 euro. So ETS 6 professional licenses to design and commission KNX installations, as Lorenzo said, and AP25 access point, and also one server from 11IoT InfiWare. So please join us in the booth party, and then we are going to do a lucky draw over there. Other than that, we are extremely happy to seeing the outcome of this startup incubator that started less than 2 years ago. And so far, the journey has been impressive. We are learning with our startups, it is true. But now, thanks to our new partnership with Riot, we hope to deliver the best ecosystem in the smart homes and buildings. I thank you very much for your attention, for supporting our startups, and I hope you have a great party in our booth. Thank you very much.